Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
I want to welcome you to In Between Ball Game Sunday. Is there a ball game next week? Who's playing? I don't know. Yeah. All right. I do want to thank all of you for being here as we move into the conclusion of our commitment this month to understand the basic principle that we teach in religious science. The ideas that we work with are, as Dr. Holmes said, not new. You know, before he passed, someone asked him how you would like to be remembered. He said, if you steal from one person, you're called a plagiarist. If you steal from everybody, you're called a scholar. I'd like to be remembered as a scholar. Well, Dr. Holmes looked for truth wherever he could find it, and the golden thread that he discovered is the evolution of the greatest thinkers who ever lived. In The Voice Celestial, which was his last book, he pointed out that it is not enough that we know about things. What we need to know is we need to know as the thing we are trying to know knows. We need to know not just about love, we need to know as love knows. We need to know not just about success, but as success knows. How many know people who know all they need to know about success, but you don't see it in their life, or happiness, or anything else? Why? Because they are just letting it be an intellectual exercise. Everyone say, this morning, if I've been intellectual exercising anything, I choose to spiritualize my intellect. Now, you spiritualize your intellect by becoming the thing that you are contemplating, the thing that you're rehearsing. Everyone say, if I rehearse long enough, the curtain will go up. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, what are we rehearsing? Are we rehearsing our doubt? Are we rehearsing our fear? Are we rehearsing our anxiety? Are we rehearsing our apprehension? Are we looking at tomorrow and basing it on something that happened yesterday? Are we allowing ourselves to be what the great teachers have taught us, and that is that we have the ability at any moment to recognize now has never happened before, and since it's never happened before, it's waiting for my next idea to become experience. Who's in charge of your thinking? See, my wonderful dear friend Terry Cole Whitaker, we were youth directors together for 5 years before we both became ministers. This was back in the 70s, and she wrote a fantastic book, the best book she ever put out, and that was, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. What you think of me is none of my business. Okay, how many know that you would have a happier life if you had embodied that principle? How many know that you have bent yourself out of shape many, many times, not because, it's like we're starting our Science of Mind 400 class, and it's absolutely wonderful. We have 4 United practitioners that are going to be studying ministerial training with me, and it's absolutely wonderful, and the Reverend Dr. Celeste, and we are involving ourselves in the realization that when you're standing up and you're speaking to anyone, it's not, you know, how many know that the second most feared thing in the world is death? And the first one is public speaking. I've never had a problem with that. But, you know, it's not getting me up. It's stopping me when I get started. That's what we have the problem with. But anyhow, the challenge we have is to know that when you're doing anything, public speaking is one of the areas to think about. Because when someone is speaking, it is not what they are thinking about you. It's what you think about the audience. That's what the speaker is dealing with. I know before I walk out of here, when I give my treatment for everybody who walks in the door and give the treatment first for myself, everyone say, well, let's repeat after Dr. Holmes. Dr. Holmes said, if you only have one time for one treatment a day, who do you give it for? Yourself. Why? Because your treatment for yourself is going to look out of your eyes and evaluate everything you see and everyone you see and everything you're experiencing. So here's how we use this. We use this by understanding there is a principle. It is everywhere at once. Nobody has more of it than anybody else. It's waiting within you, as we are told, waiting, and Emerson said, in smiling repose to become anything we let it become. If we do what? Say it with me. Get my bloated nothingness out of the way. Say it. Get my bloated nothingness out of the way. What is your bloated nothingness? Your bloated nothingness is when you say I am and put something negative after it. Your blow to nothing is when you say you are and put something negative after it. Or we are, or the country is, or the world is. There's a power within us that knows what to do and how to do it if we let go and let it do it, but it can't do more than we let it do. See, a lot of people are trying to make it do something while expecting it not to do it. So we find ourselves freeing ourselves. Everyone say, I concern myself with the best of myself. And then give what I discover to the world. On page 28 of the Signs of Mind textbook, Dr. Ernest Holmes says, we shall never encompass God, and yet we shall always be in God and of God. That's what that song was about this morning. In Acts 17:25, it says, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things. It says all things. When Jesus was asked how to pray, he said, our Father. He didn't say some of us. He was talking about the Buddhists and the Baptists and the Islam and Judaism and all of it. You know, and none of that was around then. Some of it was thought about by the greatest thinkers, but it wasn't organized that way. And the challenge we have is to recognize that the clear golden thread that binds all of the teachings in the world together sometimes is lost when they start creating rules and regulations and disciplines. Why? Because we just studied in our mysticism class is that if your concept of God is a big boss sitting up on a throne, you're going to have rules and regulations to practice religion. But what if the transcendentalists who we evolved from were correct when they said, wait a minute, what if we could allow ourselves to know that we are what we're looking for, that once we see anything in a clear way, we can't go back and accept a vague explanation of it, so we challenge ourselves to be clearer every day. If a religious scientist has a commitment, it is today I see life clearer than I ever saw it before. I see my possibility clear. I see anything that I need to see in a clearer way. Let's look at the principle again. Say with me. When I see it in a clear way, I can't go back and accept a vague explanation of it. Now, metaphysicians, look at me and listen to me. If you know there is one life and it is God, it is everywhere at once, it is the principle of the universe, and you know with it all things are possible, then why spend your time worrying about anything? See, worry is just negative faith. It's faith that everything's going to go wrong. Why not use that faith in another way? It's not that you don't have faith, you're just not using it in the right direction. See, we have a possibility. We have a possibility of what? We can put 3 colors, yellow, blue, red, there they are. We got a canvas, we got paint, we got somebody sitting in front of it with a brush in their hand and a canvas. Now, if they have what? Some training, they can do what? Flow into it and do what? Paint the masterpiece. Or they can paint a bunch of nonsense. Okay, now, if they're painting nonsense and they want to turn it into a masterpiece, is there anything preventing them from doing it other than what? I can't do that. I can't be that. I can't have that. Why? Well, I never have before. Where would we be if never had before dictated what we can do and be? What will we be doing? See, the challenge we have, I love it. I always use this in first year class over at Stanford. They had a physics class going on, and one of the students came in late. There were two problems on the board. He came in late, everybody left, he wrote everything down, he goes home. Next day he comes back to class and he tells the professor, he says, well, these 2 problems you had, said, I solved the first one, but this second one's really got me stymied. He said, you did what? He said, I solved the first one. He said, let me see it. He said, oh my God, you did. You did. He said, this is amazing. He said, why did you do this? He said, well, wasn't that the assignment? He said, no, I put those on the board as 2 problems Einstein was never able to solve. Was never able to solve. Why was he able to do it? Nothing in him said you can't do it. Nothing within him never said you can't be it, you can't have it, you can't do it. You know. How many have listened to you can't? And you should. Goes that. Okay. Now, everyone say, if I'm going to be responsible for it, it will show up. And I'll be responsible for it. See, there's your clue. We don't get everything we want, but we do get everything we expect, and we don't keep anything we're not ready to be responsible for. So if we're going to expand our consciousness for greater acceptance, then we need to expand our acceptance of responsibility.